Right. Thank you very much, Gilbert. Some very, really keen insights there, as well as some really good advice and guidance for people. So what I want to do is change the direction slightly. I want to swing us over to BT's Adastral Park Customer Innovation Center. And Shane Allum's going to do us a demonstration from that facility around mixed reality. So we're going to see a little bit about augmented reality and virtual reality. So Shane, over to you.
Mixed reality headsets are starting to have a really big impact in the enterprise sector. People are starting to unlock the true value of them and how it can actually transform the way that they work. Now, you're probably familiar with virtual reality headsets, the idea that you are enclosed in a virtual world. So when I'm wearing these goggles, I can't see the world around me, but I can see a virtual world. Now, that really speaks to the idea of training. Can you train someone in a virtual version of a real world environment? That way you take out all the risks. So for instance, you could have a bricklayer being taught how to lay bricks. And with the hand controllers, they can even have that sensation of it. Now you could also do things like training up apprentices in environments that are considered live and you don't really want them touching your live production kit. There's all sorts of scenarios there where you can create virtual worlds and experience those worlds without ever having to really go out into the real world. They have a really, really strong use case around training, but for more practical things, augmented reality headsets are probably the way that things are going to go. Now, you might be familiar with the Google headset from a few years ago, Google Glass. This one was not very powerful because most of the compute was in your phone, but it connected to this device via Bluetooth, and then essentially you have a small screen in your field of vision. So now while I'm wearing this, I have a small screen in my peripheral, but rather than with the virtual reality world, with the augmented one, the screen overlays information in the real world for me. That can be incredibly useful because if you can augment a person's intelligence by overlaying information, well, suddenly they can become more efficient at a task. Now, things have moved on in recent years, and now there are things like the Toshiba unit that I've got here. Now, the point of this one is that it's still got a screen that augments my view, so it overlays information for me, but the compute power is actually attached via this cable to a Windows 10 hip-mountable PC. The idea here is that any application you can run on Windows 10, you can now run on that. And that unlocks all sorts of capabilities around things like virtual calling, allowing a remote person to see what you see. You can overlay augmented reality points, so pieces of information. As you look at a piece of kit, you could have instruction manuals. You could have literally arrows pointing out where to go and what to do. And those are starting to become really quite prevalent. There's lots of use cases around those. You also get the more ruggedized versions like this, where essentially this one's a hip mountable or a chest mountable or even head mountable ruggedized camera with all those same capabilities all built into that one mobile unit. And then you get to some of the units that you might have seen again on TV, things like the HoloLens unit. Now this one actually is a visor that covers my entire view, but again with that augmented reality perspective, it overlays information inside my field of vision. So the capabilities here really speak to being able to have a person go into an environment and have their intelligence augmented so that they can interact virtually with important points of information or even virtual buttons, or having someone be able to dial in. Now suddenly what that means for the world of work is that, well, there's a whole thing here around safety, there's a whole thing here around training and recording of activities that have been done, and really the possibilities are limitless. It comes down to the limits of your imagination. One of my favourite scenarios I've seen is walking through a construction site and actually being able to overlay the blueprints in a 3D model so you can check if work is being done to the right specification and on the right parts of the land. But you can look at things like, for instance, surgery. Would it be possible to overlay important diagnostic information so that actually it's there when you need it? There are loads of potentials there, and these mixed reality headsets that are out on the market now are starting to unlock that potential. A really interesting way that I think the world is going to go over the next few years is to have these things become much more embedded in the workplace.